What if the very colors you wear are secretly adding years to your appearance, or instantly taking them away? Imagine slipping on one blouse and looking tired, then changing into another shade and suddenly hearing, "Wow, you look incredible." The truth is, after 60, the colors you choose can either wash you out or light you up. Most women never realize how much power their wardrobe palette holds, and they end up blending into the background when they could be glowing, radiant, and unforgettable. Today, we're uncovering the shades that don't just flatter, but actually make you look younger and more vibrant. Some of them might surprise you, because they're not the safe neutrals you've been told to stick to. If you've ever wondered why certain outfits feel dull while others spark compliments you didn't expect, you're about to find out. Welcome to Ageless Style for women over 60, where we celebrate timeless beauty, confidence, and the joy of looking and feeling your best at every age. If that inspires you, subscribe and join our community. Seraphina was 67, a retired art teacher who had spent decades filling classrooms with vibrant canvases and teaching her students how to see the world in shades beyond black and white. Yet, in her personal life, her own wardrobe told a very different story. As the years passed, she gradually tucked away the jewel-toned scarves and patterned dresses she once adored. In their place came muted greys, washed-out beiges, and the kind of safe black she thought would make her look dignified. On the outside, her clothing seemed practical, even respectable. But on the inside, it made her feel like she was slowly disappearing. There was nothing dramatic about this change. It happened so quietly that Seraphina herself hardly noticed. One year she stopped wearing her red lipstick. Another year she gave away the turquoise blouse her daughter always said made her eyes sparkle. At first, she told herself it was about dressing appropriately for her age. But deep down, it was something else, a fear of standing out, of drawing attention, of being judged for daring to look radiant at a stage of life where many women are told to fade quietly into the background. Her reflection in the mirror began to feel foreign. She often thought, where did the lively woman go, the one who wasn't afraid of color? At social gatherings, she felt present but unnoticed. People were kind and polite, but rarely did anyone comment on how she looked. And while she loved her family dearly, she sometimes wondered if she had started to blend into the wallpaper of her own life. Yet Seraphina carried within her the eye of an artist. She had taught countless young students to find joy in color, to notice how blue skies lifted the spirit, how golden sunlight warmed a painting, how even a single bold brushstroke could transform a canvas. Somewhere deep down, she still knew that colors had power. They weren't just pigments on fabric or paint on a wall. They were energy, emotion, and memory. She just hadn't yet rediscovered how to use them for herself. That rediscovery began in the most unexpected way. One afternoon, while rummaging through an old cedar chest, Seraphina found a scarf she had almost forgotten, a gift from a colleague years ago. Its fabric shimmered in a deep, glowing shade that seemed to call to her. She held it up to the light, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of the woman she used to be. She didn't know it yet, but that small moment marked the beginning of her transformation. A journey where she would learn that the right colors could not only change how others saw her, but how she saw herself. Color 1. Sapphire blue, her first spark. Seraphina's transformation began almost by accident. One late morning, as she prepared for a casual coffee outing with an old friend, she stood in front of her wardrobe staring at the same neutral pieces she always chose. Beige cardigans, black slacks, and a grey shawl she often draped over her shoulders like armor. They were safe, dependable, and invisible. She hesitated, feeling an old weight in her chest. Then her eyes caught on something tucked away at the back, a forgotten sapphire blue scarf, a gift from years ago. The fabric shimmered faintly as she pulled it from its hiding place. It had been so long since she dared to wear a color this bold. For a moment she almost folded it back into the drawer, convinced it would be too much for her age. But something inside whispered otherwise. She wrapped it gently around her shoulders and studied her reflection. What she saw startled her. The dullness she had grown used to wasn't there anymore. Her silver hair, once something she tried to hide, now gleamed against the rich blue. The fine lines around her eyes softened, her complexion looked brighter, and her eyes appeared sharper, almost luminous. It was as if the color had unlocked something she had forgotten she still had, presence, vitality, a glow that had nothing to do with youth and everything to do with confidence. When she arrived at the cafe, the reaction was immediate. Her friend paused mid-sentence, then smiled and said, "You look incredible today. There's something different about you, you're glowing." Seraphina felt warmth spread across her chest, not from the compliment itself, but from the realization that it was true. The scarf hadn't turned back the clock, but it had given her something more valuable, a reminder that she didn't have to fade into the background just because of her age. This moment was more than a style choice, it was a lesson. Sapphire blue, she realized, wasn't just a beautiful shade, it was a power color. For women over 60, jewel tones like sapphire do more than brighten hair or skin. They restore energy to the entire face, drawing attention upward and creating a vibrant frame for silver, salt and pepper, or even thinning hair. It's a simple shift with enormous impact. Seraphina's blue scarf became more than an accessory, it became her spark. It taught her that color could still change how she was seen, and more importantly, how she saw herself. And from that moment on, she knew she was ready to rediscover the shades that would bring her back to life. Color 2. Soft coral, the glow of warmth. The week after her sapphire discovery, Seraphina was invited to a neighborhood brunch. She stood again before her closet, tempted to reach for her usual charcoal sweater. But she stopped herself. The blue scarf had reminded her that boldness could be freeing, and she wondered what other colors might awaken something new. She searched through her wardrobe until her hand brushed a soft coral blouse she had bought years ago but never dared to wear. At the time, she thought it was too bright, perhaps better suited for younger women. But today, something about its gentle warmth seemed to call to her. She decided to give it a chance. As she slipped the blouse on, she noticed an immediate difference. Unlike the harshness of black or the dullness of grey, the coral seemed to reflect light back onto her face. Her complexion appeared softer, warmer, and somehow healthier. The faint tiredness she usually noticed in the mirror had lifted, replaced by a subtle glow she hadn't seen in years. It wasn't dramatic like makeup or a new haircut, but it was noticeable in a way that felt effortless. Walking into the brunch, Seraphina felt a flicker of nervousness. Would this color make her stand out too much? But the moment she entered the room, the reaction silenced her doubts. Heads turned, and friends greeted her with unexpected enthusiasm. One neighbor leaned in and said, "Seraphina, that color is stunning on you, you look so alive." Another remarked how the shade brought out the rosiness in her cheeks, making her look refreshed and approachable. Instead of fading into the background, she felt like a warm, welcoming presence. Soft coral, she realized, had a special magic. It wasn't overly bold or loud, but it carried a quiet radiance that softened her features and made her feel instantly more connected to those around her. For women over 60, coral has the power to counteract dullness in the skin and bring a natural vibrancy back to the face. Unlike stark reds or neon pinks, coral strikes a balance, it's cheerful but gentle, noticeable but not overwhelming. It draws people in rather than pushing them away. By the end of the brunch, Seraphina found herself laughing more freely, engaging in conversations with ease, and even staying longer than she normally would. The blouse hadn't just changed how others saw her, it changed how she felt about herself in that moment. She no longer worried about being invisible or out of place. Instead, she felt like the woman she had once been, approachable, confident, and alive. That day, coral became more than just another color in her wardrobe. It became a reminder that warmth, when worn well, radiates outward and invites the world closer. Seraphina left the brunch not only with compliments echoing in her mind but with a renewed sense of belonging, proof that color could transform not just appearance, but energy and connection too. Color 3, Emerald Green, Energy Restored. A few weeks later, Seraphina received an invitation to a garden party hosted by one of her former colleagues. The event was outdoors, filled with blooming roses, climbing ivy, and the gentle buzz of conversation around picnic tables. She wanted to feel part of the atmosphere, lively, natural, and full of joy. While browsing through her closet, she came across a deep emerald green wrap dress she had bought years earlier but never worn. It had always seemed too bold, too rich, perhaps even too much for someone her age. But now, After discovering how color could shift her presence, she felt drawn to it. She slipped the dress on, adjusting the soft fabric around her waist. Almost instantly, she felt an unfamiliar rush of energy. Emerald wasn't just another shade, it radiated life, like fresh leaves after a spring rain. When she looked in the mirror, she noticed how the green made her eyes brighter and her skin appear less tired. The color seemed to echo the vitality of the garden itself, as if she were wearing nature's own energy. At the party, the transformation didn't go unnoticed. As she greeted old friends and colleagues, she was met with widened eyes and delighted comments. One person exclaimed, "Seraphina, you look like you've just come back from a holiday." Another said the green brought out the sparkle in her eyes, making her seem refreshed and vibrant. The compliments weren't about the dress alone, they were about the energy she projected. She wasn't just attending the party, she was part of its vitality. What made emerald green so powerful, Seraphina realized, was its balance. It wasn't as soft as coral, nor as dramatic as sapphire. Instead, it carried a grounded richness that suggested strength and renewal. For women over 60, emerald offers something unique. It revives the natural tones in the skin while symbolizing growth and vitality. It avoids the harshness of darker greens while remaining bold enough to make an impact. It is a shade that whispers confidence without ever shouting. As the afternoon went on, Seraphina noticed something else. Her posture had changed. She stood taller, moved with ease, and laughed more openly. Wearing emerald felt like more than a fashion choice. It was a declaration that she was still vibrant, still full of life, still very much present. She felt the way she used to when painting outdoors with her students, alive, creative, and completely in tune with her surroundings. By the time the party ended, Seraphina wasn't just complimented on her appearance, she was remembered for her energy. Emerald green had restored something she thought age had quietly taken away, her spark of vitality. Walking home that evening, she understood that the right colors don't simply enhance your look, they can reconnect you to parts of yourself that had been waiting, patiently, to return. Color 4. Plum Purple, a regal shift. When Seraphina's granddaughter invited her to a piano recital, she wanted to look elegant and put together, but not flashy. For years, she had defaulted to beige for such events, safe tones that seemed polite and unobtrusive. Yet every time she wore beige, she noticed how it drained her complexion, blending her into the background of group photos. As she laid that familiar cardigan across her bed, her hand hesitated. Then she remembered a plum purple dress she had tucked away, one she had only worn once decades earlier. Its fabric was smooth, the shade deep and rich, somewhere between royal purple and berry wine. She decided it was time to step out of beige's shadow. As she slipped the plum dress on, Seraphina instantly felt different. The mirror reflected not just a woman ready for a recital, but someone who carried an aura of quiet authority. The deep purple framed her silver hair beautifully, making it appear luminous rather than dull. Her skin looked warmer, smoother, and the fine lines softened in the richness of the shade. It wasn't just flattering, it was transformative. For the first time in years, she felt regal. Walking into the recital hall, Seraphina was met with immediate glances. She didn't feel invisible or overlooked, she felt seen. Parents and grandparents alike complimented her look. One mother leaned over and whispered, "That color is stunning on you. You look so confident." Her granddaughter, beaming from the stage, caught her eye and later said, "Grandma, you look like a queen today." That single remark settled deep in Seraphina's heart, affirming what she already sensed. Plum purple had elevated her presence in a way beige never could. The power of plum lies in its balance between boldness and sophistication. It's a color that doesn't scream for attention yet commands it naturally. For women over 60, it offers richness without heaviness, authority without severity. Unlike black, which can sometimes appear stark, plum adds depth and softness at the same time. It is particularly flattering for women with silver or white hair, enhancing rather than competing with their natural tones. Throughout the recital, Seraphina noticed she carried herself differently. She sat with her back straighter, smiled more readily, and engaged in conversations with a calm assurance. The color didn't just make her look elegant, it reminded her to embody elegance. She wasn't hiding in the background anymore. She was stepping into her role as a matriarch, poised and confident, not afraid to shine in her own right. By the end of the evening, Seraphina realized that plum purple was more than just a shade in her wardrobe. It was a declaration of presence, a subtle yet undeniable signal of dignity. Beige had once made her feel safe, but plum made her feel powerful. That night, she walked away not just as a proud grandmother but as a woman who understood the regal strength of owning her style. Color 5, Ivory. Gentle sophistication. There was a time when Seraphina believed that white was the ultimate symbol of elegance. For years, she had carefully stored crisp white blouses in her closet, thinking they were timeless staples that would never go out of style. Yet every time she wore one, she noticed something unsettling. The starkness of pure white seemed to cast shadows on her face, emphasizing lines she preferred to soften. Her smile looked tighter, her skin a touch paler, and photographs often captured a harshness she didn't feel inside. She had never questioned it before, but after her discoveries with sapphire, coral, emerald, and plum, she had started to see how color could either diminish or elevate her presence. One afternoon, as she prepared for a luncheon with her old book club, she reached automatically for a white blouse. But then, tucked behind it, she noticed an ivory one she had rarely worn. The difference was subtle, a warmer, creamier shade of white, but when she pulled it from the hanger, she felt curious. What harm would there be in trying? She buttoned it carefully, paired it with a soft pearl necklace, and turned to the mirror. The result surprised her. Unlike the unforgiving glare of stark white, the ivory fabric reflected a softer glow across her skin. The fine lines around her mouth seemed less sharp, her cheeks looked warmer, and her smile appeared more natural, almost luminous. The color didn't compete with her complexion. It complemented it. Seraphina realized she didn't look washed out. She looked refreshed. At the luncheon, the compliments flowed easily. A friend leaned across the table and said, "You look so radiant today, did you do something different?" Another remarked that her skin seemed smoother, almost like she had just come from a spa treatment. No one mentioned the blouse itself, yet everyone noticed the effect it created. That was the beauty of ivory. It worked quietly, without drawing attention to itself, but it allowed Seraphina to shine. Ivory carries a unique kind of sophistication. For women over 60, it avoids the pitfalls of bright white, which can sometimes feel stark or clinical. Instead, it softens, flatters, and creates an elegant canvas for natural features to stand out. Whether in a blouse, a scarf, or a tailored jacket, ivory provides light without harshness, making it one of the most forgiving and graceful neutrals a woman can wear. Seraphina left the luncheon with a new appreciation for subtlety. She realized that elegance didn't always come from bold, eye-catching shades. Sometimes, the quiet strength of a gentle color could make the most powerful impression. Ivory reminded her that beauty isn't about overpowering, it's about enhancing, about choosing shades that let your natural warmth shine through. That day, Seraphina felt not only polished and graceful but also more authentically herself, as though ivory had brought her inner light to the surface. Color 6, Rose Pink, Romantic Elegance. When Seraphina received an invitation to her longtime friend Helena's wedding, she felt a mix of excitement and hesitation. Weddings had a way of magnifying how she felt about herself. Surrounded by younger guests in stylish gowns, she often found herself fading into the background, dressed in neutrals that made her feel more appropriate than inspired. This time, though, she wanted something different. She wanted to celebrate not only her friend's new chapter but also her own renewed sense of style. As she considered her options, her hand stopped on a dress she had nearly forgotten, a flowing rose-pink gown with delicate sleeves. It was softer than red, gentler than fuchsia, but still alive with warmth. Years ago, she had dismissed it as too girlish for her age. Yet standing there, recalling the confidence she had gained from her recent experiments with color, she felt a tug of courage. She slipped it on, adjusted the neckline, and stood before the mirror. The effect was undeniable. Rose pink didn't overwhelm her, nor did it make her look like she was trying too hard. Instead, it cast a flattering blush across her cheeks, as if she had just returned from a joyful walk in fresh air. Her silver hair glowed against the romantic shade, and her eyes carried a softness that surprised her. For the first time in years, she didn't just feel dressed, she felt beautiful. At the wedding, the compliments began almost immediately. Guests she hadn't seen in years stopped to tell her how radiant she looked. One remarked, "That color makes you shine, you look so graceful." Even the bride whispered during the reception, "You look stunning, Seraphina. You bring such warmth to the room." It wasn't just the dress, it was the way rose pink harmonized with her natural features, enhancing them rather than competing with them. The magic of rose pink lies in its balance between elegance and approachability. For women over 60, it can revive a sense of femininity without feeling forced. Unlike bold reds, which can sometimes dominate, rose pink offers romance and charm in a way that feels authentic. It works across skin tones, blending seamlessly to soften shadows and highlight natural glow. Accessories, a shawl, earrings, or even lipstick in this hue, can provide the same lift, turning an ordinary outfit into something memorable. By the end of the evening, Seraphina realized how transformative one color could be. She wasn't just another guest at Helena's wedding. She was part of the celebration, radiant and full of presence. The dress gave her confidence, but more importantly, it reminded her that embracing softness could be powerful. Rose pink wasn't about reclaiming youth. It was about embracing a timeless elegance that made her feel alive, feminine, and deeply herself. That night, as she looked at photos from the wedding, she saw not just a friend in a pretty dress, but a woman glowing with confidence, proof that elegance has no age limit. Color 7. Charcoal Grey, Chic Confidence. For years, Seraphina had leaned heavily on black, especially for formal occasions. Her favorite black pantsuit had become her go-to choice whenever she wanted to appear polished and slim. It was easy, reliable, and she believed it gave her authority. Yet, each time she wore it, there was a nagging feeling she couldn't quite explain. Photos often showed her looking sharper than she felt, not sharp in elegance, but sharp in severity. The stark black seemed to drain her features, creating a contrast that sometimes felt harsh against her fair skin and silver hair. One evening, she was preparing for a community fundraiser where she would be introduced as a guest of honor for her years of teaching art. She wanted to look dignified, but she also wanted to appear approachable, warm, and fresh. As she reached for her black pantsuit, something held her back. Then, her eyes landed on a charcoal grey ensemble she had rarely worn. At first glance, it didn't seem much different from black. But when she held it against her skin in the mirror, the difference was striking. The grey was softer, more forgiving, and it gave her reflection a freshness that black never had. When she walked into the event wearing the charcoal suit paired with a pearl brooch, the reactions were immediate. Several people complimented her on looking radiant and younger, words she had rarely heard when dressed in black. A colleague remarked, "That color suits you perfectly, so chic and elegant, but softer somehow." Seraphina realized then that charcoal hadn't taken away the slimming effect she valued. It had simply removed the harshness. It gave her the same confidence as black but without the invisible wall it sometimes created between her and others. The magic of charcoal grey is its subtle balance. For women over 60, it maintains the sophistication and slimming quality of black but introduces warmth and accessibility. Black can sometimes cast strong shadows on mature skin, highlighting lines or hollow areas. Charcoal, by contrast, reflects light in a gentler way, softening features and enhancing natural glow. It pairs beautifully with accessories in jewel tones, ivory, or rose pink, creating countless chic combinations without overpowering the wearer. As the evening continued, Seraphina noticed that conversations flowed more easily. People seemed drawn to her, perhaps unconsciously responding to the inviting quality of the softer shade. She wasn't just being admired for her attire, she was being engaged with as a person, fully present in the moment. For Seraphina, this was a revelation. Color wasn't only about appearance, it was about energy, the way others felt around her. By the end of the night, her charcoal pantsuit had earned a permanent place at the front of her wardrobe. She understood now that true confidence doesn't always come from the boldest choices. Sometimes it comes from quiet adjustments that make you feel more authentically yourself. Charcoal grey gave her the dignity she wanted, but it also restored warmth to her presence. And in that balance, she found a new kind of confidence, chic, graceful, and entirely her own. Color 8. Teal, the universal glow. When Seraphina received the invitation to her school reunion, she felt a swirl of emotions. Excitement, yes, but also apprehension. Reunions had a way of stirring up insecurities. She wondered how her classmates would see her after all these years. Would they notice the lines etched into her face, the silver in her hair, the slower pace in her step? She wanted to look her best, not in an artificial way, but in a way that honored who she had become. She searched her wardrobe with care, wanting something that felt both striking and authentic. That's when her hand rested on a teal blouse she had purchased on a whim but never worn. The moment she slipped it over her shoulders, she knew it was the right choice. Teal carried a unique vibrancy, a blend of blue's calm elegance and green's earthy vitality. It didn't overpower her, nor did it fade into the background. Instead, it seemed to breathe life into her appearance. Her silver hair glowed against its rich depth, her complexion looked luminous, and her eyes appeared brighter, as though the color itself had reached in and polished her features. At the reunion, the reaction was immediate and unforgettable. As she walked into the hall filled with old friends and familiar faces, a hush of surprise rippled through the room. Then someone exclaimed, "Seraphina, you haven't aged a bit." The comment wasn't about pretending time hadn't passed. It was about the energy she radiated in that moment. Teal didn't erase years. It highlighted her vitality, her warmth, her presence. Conversations flowed easily, and friends marveled at how vibrant she looked. It was as if the color had wrapped her in an aura of timeless grace. What makes teal remarkable is its versatility. For women over 60, it is a universal shade that flatters nearly every skin tone and hair color. Unlike black, which can harden, or beige, which can drain, teal offers balance. It frames the face with richness without being overwhelming. Whether in a blouse, scarf, or jewelry, teal enhances natural undertones, bringing out warmth in the skin and brightness in the eyes. It has the rare ability to feel both classic and refreshing, making it a perfect anchor in any wardrobe. That evening, Seraphina realized teal had become her signature color. It wasn't just about how others reacted, though the compliments were plentiful. It was about how she felt inside, vibrant, noticed, alive. For years, she had played it safe, choosing shades that helped her blend in. Teal reminded her that sometimes, standing out is the truest form of confidence. It wasn't about dressing younger. It was about dressing brighter, fuller, more herself. Which of these colors would you try first? Drop your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Seraphina's journey through color is more than a story about clothes. It's a lesson about reclaiming identity, confidence, and joy. For years, she believed style had an expiration date, that with age came the expectation to blend into neutrals and silence her presence. But step by step, with sapphire, coral, emerald, plum, ivory, rose pink, charcoal, and teal, she rediscovered something powerful. Colors are not just fabric stitched together. They are reflections of energy, emotion, and self-worth. Each choice she made reminded her that elegance isn't about chasing youth, it's about celebrating the richness of life at every stage. Think about it. How many times have you reached for the same safe shade because you thought it was appropriate, only to feel invisible once you wore it? Seraphina's story proves that a simple shift in color can do more than change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. Sapphire gave her sparkle, coral gave her warmth, emerald gave her vitality, plum gave her dignity, ivory gave her softness, rose pink gave her romance, charcoal gave her chic confidence, and teal gave her timeless glow. Each color was a step toward embracing visibility, refusing to fade, and saying, "I still matter, and I still shine." This isn't just about Seraphina. It's about you, and every woman who has ever questioned whether elegance belongs to her after 60. The truth is, elegance is not a number, and radiance has no expiration date. The right colors are tools to bring out your best features, to reflect your personality, and to remind you that beauty and confidence belong to you at every stage of life. When you put on a shade that flatters you, it's not just fashion. It's a statement. I am here, I am vibrant, and I am worthy of being seen. So, As you look into your own wardrobe, ask yourself, are you dressing to hide, or are you dressing to shine? Because your story doesn't have to be about blending into the background. It can be about stepping forward with grace, poise, and joy. Seraphina's journey is proof that small, intentional choices lead to transformation. And if she could rediscover her glow, so can you. If Seraphina's story inspired you, give this video a like, share it with a friend who deserves to glow, and subscribe for more timeless style tips. Because after 60, elegance is ageless, and so are you.